along the way there was always some small thing. He'd come home with scratches, grazes or deeper. The scars would have the black line in them from the coal. He had 2 major accidents. I was in my last year at primary school. My dad was quite knocked up. He broke an arm and a leg, and he had quite a lot of smashes. His face was quite knocked about, and he was off work for a very long time. Because we were so far from the pit, the first we knew was the coalboard ambulance turning up at the house. They had their own fleet of ambulances, which were navy blue. Because there was no way, we didn't have a phone, so sometimes if my dad was late, my mum used to go up, walk up quite a way to the phone box and ring up to see what was wrong, because sometimes there'd be a problem as a deputy, or maybe somebody else had had an accident and my dad was late. So I was sort of aware of this anxiety. She'd go up, but she hadn't gone up that night, so it must have been fairly late. And I remember looking out the landing window and seeing this rather dark blue thing. I didn't understand what it was. And then all the panic and my mum being quite upset. And my brother, who was quite old and he was left in charge of me. And the ambulance took her to Mansfield General. Compared with these days when communication is so easy, we wouldn't have known what was going on until someone brought her back a long time later. I could tell that she was upset, but at that time, children weren't allowed to visit. From my dad going out to work as normal to me seeing him was quite a long gap. Eventually, I went up on the stairs at Mansfield General, and he was on a side ward, and I can remember going in and just quickly going in and then standing at the door. That was all that was allowed, which seems sort of so cruel really now, but at the time that was the rules. And I can remember seeing him in quite a state, because he was, he'd got his arm and his leg in plaster, and but it left its mark that I didn't know what was happening, and I think in those days children were always filled in on what was happening. It left its mark, so I can remember being anxious always if he was a bit late coming home, right through my teens. It took months for him to get back to normal. He went to Berry Hill Rehabilitation Centre, which they'd live in, and then he'd come home. Eventually he used to come home for weekends. Early 1984, as it happened, my dad had he'd taken an early retirement package at 59, a few months before the strike, so he wasn't directly involved. At that point, when my family were living in Yorkshire, I was involved with the Labour Party, and I found it quite a difficult time, because I had quite mixed feelings about the picketing in Nottinghamshire. I didn't talk about the fact that my dad was a Nottinghamshire miner and not a Yorkshire miner. I remember being very upset travelling down to visit my parents, being stopped by the police on the A1 and quizzed as to what we were doing and why we were going, and I was thinking, that can't be right. I remember thinking, why are you going to... you can't stop us going, because we're trying to stop the pickets coming from Nottinghamshire down to Nottinghamshire. And my dad used to get quite upset about importing the coal when he got older, he was retired, because he'd say, there was blood on the coal, it was all dreadful, the conditions people were working in. Because of course all the safety measures that were taken here made it more more expensive to produce the coal here. He was very proud of the fact that the National Coal Board had created probably one of the safest mining setups in the world, he thought, and his job was to worry about the safety as deputy. And I've got a cutting somewhere I got from the Chad when I got my place at university. I applied and got a grant from the Miners' Educational Welfare Fund, £100, which was a lot of money then. And it was in the Chad. There was 6 of us, I think. He was very proud of that. And in some ways, even now I can't quite feel totally comfortable with the world I entered as a student. But having said that, at university I did land up living with friends, one from Sutton, who his father's a miner, somebody else. And I think eventually I did find people from more mixed backgrounds.